Hello everyone, this is Katie Colleen here. Welcome back Colleen Clan, or if you're new, then come join the family. Today I'll be showing you how to make a men's bodysuit for your cosplay. Now I've actually made two of these now, one for myself and one for my husband. We cosplayed as Rock Lee and my guy. So now that I've made two of these bodysuits, I'm going to be sharing my bodysuit creation knowledge with all of you. Let's start with the pattern. So I'll be using the Yaya Han's Ultimate Bodysuit pattern for men. I've used the feminine bodysuit pattern multiple times on this channel, so we're just gonna be digging into the bodysuit that was designed for masculine figures. Let's also get into our fabric. So you are going to need a stretchy fabric. That is a must. It must have some sort of stretch to it. Now I'm using a two-way stretch in this kind of obnoxious green color. I was incredibly lucky to find this fabric just on the Bolt at Joann's without having to dye it myself. And I believe it's been discontinued since then. I haven't really ever seen it since the day that I bought it. So let's cut out our pattern pieces. We're gonna need the front, the back, the sleeve, both sleeve pieces, there are two, and the pant legs, both pant pieces, there are also two, a front and a back, and the collar. Now, with the bodysuit that I am creating for Rock Lee and my guy, it's a pretty loosely fit bodysuit. It isn't skin tight like you see on the cover of the pattern. So I'm actually going to size up by 2 sizes at least. And bodysuits are notoriously hard to fit. If you are new to doing bodysuits, I would recommend sizing up at least 1 size anyways, and then taking it down later if you need to. It is always easier to take in fabric than add fabric later. I'm gonna lay out my pattern pieces so you can kind of see what we're working with here. So on the left, I have the back, then I have the 2 sleeve pieces in the center, and then on the right side, I have the front piece. So all of these need to be sewn together. I'm going to start out with sewing both sides of the sleeve together. This is a pretty easy seam to start on. It's pretty straightforward. So there's a sleeve front and a sleeve back. I'm just lining those two up and sewing that kind of curved seam along the top of your shoulder. Now this is a stretch fabric, so I will be using a zigzag stitch on my sewing machine. Additionally, I'm also going to be serging all of my seams. Now this is optional, and most of the time my projects are lined, so you don't even really see that I serged them. But I'm actually not lining this project. I know, it's shocking. I usually line everything. The amount of fabric I needed to make 2 full bodysuits, I just wasn't ready to commit to making 2 full bodysuits completely lined. So this is not going to be lined. It's going to be a little bit easier to follow. So let's lay out our pattern pieces again. And you can see that the sleeve is going to attach to both the front and the back piece. So let's start by attaching the sleeve to our front piece. I'm going to be sewing the seam from the top of the shoulder down to the armpit. And it's starting to kind of look like something now. I can fold over the sleeves and it's looking a little bit like a leotard. Let's also attach the back pieces. So it's the same story as with the front, but now with the back. I'm doing the seam from the shoulder down to the armpit, but now on the back side going across your shoulder blade. Now I'm not gonna sew the center back seam just yet because we'll need to put a zipper in there, so you can just leave that alone for now. Next, I'm actually going to attach the legs. And this might seem kind of weird that I haven't done the side seam yet, but I'm actually going to do that last and it'll make sense at the end. Now there's a front leg piece and a back leg piece, so I'll be sewing the front leg piece to the front and the back leg piece to the back. You're gonna end up with something that looks like this. It's starting to look a little bit like a bodysuit now. And now I can sew that side seam. This is a really long seam. It goes all the way from your wrist, down across the arm, through the armpit, down across the torso, and then along the outside of the pant leg, all the way down to your ankle. Now I really like doing the side seam last because then I can line up our underarm seam and I can line up our side seam on the legs. And overall, it really helps with seam mismatches since you can line up the whole seam at once. Now the next seam we need to sew is the inseam on the pants. So this is just from ankle to ankle. And once you have that sewn, you can finally try this on. Thankfully, I was 2 sizes bigger and I didn't have a whole lot of problems getting these fit. But if you have any problems here, this is where you would want to take your bodysuit in if you made it a little bit too big. So with our bodysuit sewn and fitted, let's now cut out the collar. Now I'm making the collar quite a bit bigger for Rock Lee and my guy because they're wearing like a turtleneck sort of thing on their suit. And I can just attach that collar to the neckline. Now the last thing we'll need to add is an invisible zipper. Now I'm not really going to go too in depth in this because the invisible zipper comes with instructions and I honestly just follow the step-by-step instructions every time I get an invisible zipper and it works great. The internet is also full of resources on how to install zippers, so this is going to go pretty quickly. This is going to go into the back of the suit. I will say that you do need an invisible zipper foot to install the invisible zipper, and it has a little groove on the underside of the foot which kind of locks into the zipper. So all I'm doing is sewing each side of the zipper to each side of the bodysuit opening and then closing up that back seam. Now the last thing to finish up on this bodysuit is hemming the sleeves and the pant legs. So I'm just going to be folding over the edges of both the sleeves and the pant legs and sewing those down with a zigzag stitch. Now something I will mention is that the pattern actually includes a stirrup piece. So this connects to the bottom of the pant legs and it's supposed to stop your bodysuit from basically riding up your legs. Now for these cosplays, we had these leg warmers and our ninja sandals and it just wasn't a problem, so I didn't add the stirrup. Thank you guys so much for your patience on this tutorial. It has been a long time coming. I was going to release this tutorial with my other Rock Lee tutorials as I was preparing for Sakura-con 2020. And now we all know that not only did Sakura-con 2020 cancel, but every convention for practically the next 2 years also canceled. And that created a whole lot of problems with content creation and a lot of other things, as you may have noticed on my channel. So thank you for waiting until conventions came back for me to get things together on this cosplay and get this final tutorial up. That being said, if you're interested in more Naruto tutorials, I have quite a few, as well as the tutorials for my Rock Lee cosplay. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!